A single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
Algeria has strongly condemned the Israeli entity's decision to recognize the territory of Somaliland in a move that is illegal and seriously undermines the sovereignty of the Federal Republic of Somalia, as well as its unity and territorial integrity. The foreign ministers of 21 Arab and Islamic countries, including Algeria, have affirmed their categorical rejection of Israel's declaration recognizing what it calls Somaliland as an independent state, expressing their strong condemnation of this recognition, which they consider a blatant violation of international law and the UN Charter. And the Note Olvides del Sahara, or Don't Forget Sahara platform, has affirmed that the human rights violations issue remains one of the blind spots of the international community's silence over Morocco's violations. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. First, the Minister of Justice, Mr. Lotfi Boujema'a, has indicated here in Algeria that the justice system has become a support for the economy and investment as part of the new instructions aimed at establishing legal security and strengthening its impact on economic development. Addressing the National Seminar on Legal Security and its Impact on Economic Development, which wound up yesterday, Saturday, here in Algiers, Mr. Boujema'a stressed that the justice sector is no longer limited to its traditional fields, but is now aligned with the new orientations of the national economic space, thereby guaranteeing proactive, preventive, and protective justice that contributes significantly to the achievement of high-quality development. He emphasized that justice, according to the new orientation, constitutes a support for the economy and investment in the service of building and developing the nation, highlighting the particular attention granted by the President of the Republic to the justice sector through its involvement or through his involvement in continuing the implementation of the national strategy for a productive, open, and fluid economy. The minister also referred to the results achieved in this context, describing them as an encouraging reality thanks to the enlightened vision and good governance of the President of the Republic, who has demonstrated to all that Algeria is still capable of leading economic transformation and fostering entrepreneurial initiatives based on sustainability and fuel efficiency in all fields. Meanwhile, Mr. Boujema'a underlined the importance of organizing such meetings that bring together elite economic, judicial, and legal stakeholders, noting that this kind of encounters help broaden prospects on the new orientation towards establishing legal security and consolidating its impact on economic development. Let's listen to him.
I
am certain that organizing this dialogue among the elite economic, legal, judicial and human rights actors will broaden and enrich the spectrum of perspectives in clarifying the new trend towards establishing legal security and its impact on economic development, especially in light of the rapid developments in today's world, all the more so that our country is considered an African and international sphere and occupies a strategic position, making it both influential and prone to influence and its environment. This is a general legal security, including the security and stability of legal texts, the consistency and reliability of procedures, and the security of judicial excellence in all its aspects.
It's worth noting that the forum was held under the high patronage of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, and inaugurated by Prime Minister Sefi Gharieb in the presence of high-ranking government officials and eminent personalities. Algeria has strongly condemned the Israelis entities or authorities' decision to recognize the territory of Somaliland in a move that is legal and seriously undermines the sovereignty of the Federal Republic of Somalia, as well as its unity and territorial integrity. Algeria added that it represents a direct threat to peace, security and stability in the region. Algeria also reaffirmed that the decision, which is rejected and condemned, constitutes a blatant violation of the principles enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations, as well as the founding principles of the African continental system, notably the principle of the prohibition of any violation of the national borders of states, a principle enshrined by the Organization of African Unity, and reaffirmed by the African Union as a fundamental pillar of the preservation of peace, security and stability on the continent. The country reiterated its full and unwavering support for the Federal Republic of Somalia in this direct threat, which has serious repercussions for the security and stability of that country and the Horn of Africa region as a whole. And the foreign ministers of 21 Arab and Islamic countries, including Algeria, have affirmed their categorical rejection of Israel's declaration recognizing what it calls Somaliland as an independent state, expressing their strong condemnation of this recognition, which they consider a blatant violation of the international law and the UN Charter. The details with our colleague Mariam Barshi.
In a joint statement, the foreign ministers of these countries expressed their rejection of the entity's declaration recognizing Somaliland located within the Federal Republic of Somalia in light of the serious repercussions of this unprecedented action on peace and security in the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea region and its grave impact on the international peace and security. The foreign ministers condemn in its strongest terms this recognition, which constitute a flagrant violation of international law and the UN Charter, which emphasizes the preservation of the sovereignty, unity and territorial integrity of states. They affirm their full support for the sovereignty of the Federal Republic of Somalia and their rejection of any measures that would undermine Somalia's unity, territorial integrity and sovereignty over all its territory. These countries considered that recognizing the independence of parts of a state's territory constitutes a dangerous precedent and a threat to international peace and security, and to the established principles of international law and the Charter of the United Nations, stressing their categorical rejection of any link between this measure and any plans to displace the Palestinian people from their land, which are rejected in form and substance and categorically. In addition to Algeria, the foreign ministers of Jordan, Egypt, Comoros, Djibouti, Gambia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Maldives, Nigeria, Oman, Pakistan, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, Turkey and Yemen, along with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, signed this statement. It's worth noting that Morocco, the UAE and Bahrain did not endorse the statement. These normalizing states have consistently refrained from aligning themselves with any unified Arab positions or statements condemning the transgressions of the Zionist entity, whether related to the war on Gaza or aggression against neighboring Arab states. It is as if these countries pledge under the normalization agreements not to criticize Israeli policies, no matter how serious they may be.
And Algeria says it follows with a major concern the serious developments taking place in Yemen's southeastern and eastern provinces of Hadramaut and Al-Mahra and the repercussions that may affect the country's unity, security and stability. A communique the foreign ministry said that the foreign ministry stressed that Algeria reiterated its support to the diplomatic initiatives aimed at preventing a new escalation of tensions and divisions in Yemen, while hailing all the efforts made to contain the crisis by peaceful means. In this respect, Algeria urged all the parties in Yemen to show wisdom and moderation and to get involved in a dialogue to pave the way for a resumption of an inclusive political process to allow for a restoration of security and stability in the country while preserving Yemen's unity, sovereignty and territorial integrity. And still in our country, the President of the Republic, Minister of Defense and Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has presided over a meeting of the Council of Ministers devoted to examining a series of draft laws and amendments to the Constitution related to the electoral system and political parties. And the No Te Olvides del Sahara, or Don't Forget Sahara platform, has affirmed that the human rights violations issue remains on or one of the blind spots of the international multi-party system and denounced the international community's silence over Morocco's violations. It emphasized the total absence of efficient international mechanisms of protection of the Sahrawi civilians while underlining that the UN mission in Western Sahara, MINURSO, remained the only UN peacekeeping mission deprived of a human rights monitoring mandate. The platform recalled that the daily reality of the Sahrawi population remained this year marked by repression and judicial harassment imposed by Morocco. And the NGO Sudanese Doctors Union has announced that more than 200 people have been killed by the Rapid Support Forces RSF in 3 districts in Western Sudan. According to medical personnel, more than 200 people, including women and children, in the districts of Amboro, Sabra and Abu Kamra were victims of RSF. The NGO said that it is blatant violation of humanitarian and international law. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomed the ceasefire announced between Thailand and Cambodia as a step forward towards lasting peace after weeks of deadly clashes on the border. Spokesman Stefan Dujarric said that Antonio Guterres described the ceasefire agreement as a positive step towards alleviating the suffering of civilians and in the ongoing hostilities and creating an environment conducive to lasting peace. Shortly before, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, also welcomed the resumption of the ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia and hoped that this will pave the way for confidence building and peace. And now, in Myanmar, the people today went to the polls as part of the first stage of general elections. About 5,000 candidates representing 57 political parties took place in the voting, the first to take place since 2020. The second phase of the elections will be taking place in 2 weeks' time, pending the holding of the third one on January 23rd. In this connection, the UN said that it was essential that Myanmar's future be determined by a credible, inclusive, fair and free process that reflects the will of its people. And U.S. President Donald Trump is meeting Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky today in Florida to discuss the details of a peace agreement. The American president expressed satisfaction at the possible conclusion soon of the U.S. proposed agreement. The news agency TASS quoted Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov as saying that Russia was committed to carry on negotiations to work out lasting accords that will address the deep causes of the conflict. Algeria will face Burkina Faso in a decisive match today at 6:30 p.m. on the second day of the group stage of 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. The match is of a paramount importance for both teams, which have made a perfect start to the competition. Algeria won convincingly against Sudan 3-0, while Burkina Faso got the better of Equatorial Guinea 2-1. And the 33rd edition of the Algerian Production Fair, held at the Exhibition Center in Paris Maritime here in Algiers, wound up yesterday, Saturday. Mariam Bashir tells us more about it.
The event, which lasted 10 days, attracted large numbers of visitors, notably on the last day, with record participation from exhibitors from the public and private sectors. Organised under the patronage of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, the event was a leading national economic and commercial gathering, bringing together more than 781 industrial and service companies, as well as dozens of economic operators in various sectors. Under the slogan "Algeria is building its future," the edition was inaugurated by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, who also opened a new exhibition pavilion at the exhibition center called Pavilion Palestine, before attending presentations on the distribution of the economic fabric and the performance of operators in the locally produced goods and services sectors, in the presence of several members of the government, business leaders and economic organizations. The President of the Republic also highlighted the progress made by national military industries, which have become a driving force embodying authentic Algerian production, while praising their support for the country's major strategic projects. The event aimed to contribute to the establishment of a culture of local consumption and to promote the Made in Algeria label as a benchmark for quality and excellence, which was highlighted by the large participation of economic actors, visitors and exhibitors who expressed their confidence in the role of the fair in strengthening the presence of national production both inside and outside the country. The event was an opportunity to showcase the capabilities of Algerian companies, communicate directly with customers and consumers, and open up prospects for partnerships that could help stimulate economic development and improve the competitiveness of domestic products.
That's the end of the news bulletin. Time now for our weekly programs. As for me, I'll meet you again tomorrow. Thank you and goodbye.
2025, a year of major events, a year in which Africa takes off while the world faces deep crises. Palestine, the Middle East, Ukraine, and new tensions with ancient roots in the Caribbean. 2025 comes to an end, and together at Radio Algeria International, we analyze a year marked by major events and transformations in programs with retrospectives and outlooks for the new year.
As year 2025 draws to an end, it is remembered as one of the darkest and most defining years in the history of Gaza. When year 2025 began, the Palestinian territory was already deep into a prolonged and devastating war waged by the Israeli occupying forces. Entire neighborhoods had been razed to the ground, hospitals and infrastructure were destroyed, and hundreds of thousands of civilians were displaced. Many were forced to move repeatedly in search for safety. The scale of destruction left Gaza's social and economic life almost completely paralyzed. Throughout the first half of 2025, the Israeli military operations continued despite repeated international calls for a ceasefire. Airstrikes, ground incursions reinforced a reality in which the Palestinian population bore the heaviest burden. Schools were closed or destroyed. Families were separated on account of the repeated displacements, and daily life became a struggle for survival. Humanitarian organizations consistently warned that Gaza was facing one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world. Food shortages became widespread. Clean drinking water was scarce and medical supplies were critically limited. Aid deliveries were often insufficient to meet the enormous needs of the Palestinian population. Doctors describe working under extreme pressure exerted by the Israeli occupying authorities with limited electricity and overwhelmed facilities. By mid-year, global diplomatic pressure intensified. Regional powers, the United Nations and international mediators burst for a halt to the fighting, emphasizing the urgent need to protect the civilian population and allow a large-scale humanitarian access. These efforts led to a ceasefire later in 2025, offering the first sustained pause in fighting in months. Politically, the situation remained deeply preoccupying. Talks about Gaza's future, reconstruction, funding, and long-term security continued without achieving progress. The Palestinian leadership stressed that a lasting peace would be impossible without addressing occupation, the blockade, or the political rights of the Palestinians, mainly their legitimate right to set up an independent state, which was formally recognized this year by France, the United Kingdom, Canada, Portugal, Belgium, Luxembourg, San Marino, and Andorra. Asked on whether there were any prospects for a lasting political solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in 2026, our political analyst Hamoud Salhi has the following.
The Middle East in 2025 was defined by shift in the regional balance of power, not a collapse and not a decisive victory for any side, but a redistribution of weight. The old equilibrium built on deterrence and managed escalation no longer held. In its place emerged a balance shaped by sustained confrontation, a prolonged war, and strategic endurance. This shift was driven above all by Israel's role as a belligerent actor. Its multi-front military campaign, stretching from Gaza to Lebanon into Syria and toward Iran, sought to impose a new regional hierarchy through force. The objective was dominance, not deterrence. Militarily, Israel expanded its operational reach. Politically and strategically, it failed to translate aggression into regional supremacy. Instead, it activated counterbalancing forces that limited its gain and prevented a decisive shift in its favor. For the United States, the balance of power shifted in relative terms. Washington remains Israel's primary military and diplomatic backer and the most powerful external actor in the region. Yet its role narrowed. The United States managed escalation, protected shipping lanes, and held alliances together. It no longer designed the balance. American power remained visible, but its ability to shape political outcomes declined. This marked a clear loss of agenda-setting authority. Russia benefited from this adjustment. Moscow preserved its strategic presence in Syria while avoiding direct confrontation. By maintaining working relations with Israel, Iran, and regional states, Russia positioned itself as a secondary balancer. The prolonged crisis increased its diplomatic relevance without forcing a costly intervention. In balance of power terms, Russia gained influence through restraint. China's gains were quieter but deeper. By staying militarily absent, Beijing avoided entanglement while benefiting from U.S. overextension. Instability weakened Western focus and accelerated multipolar redistribution. China strengthened its role as an economic anchor and strategic alternative. Without altering the military balance, it benefited from a shift in leverage and attention. Across the region, alignments adjusted rather than collapsed. Gulf states intensified hedging strategies, prioritizing autonomy. Turkey expanded influence through selective engagement, acting as a flexible balancer. Iran absorbed sustained pressure, yet remained intact, reinforcing its position as a durable pole in the regional balance. Survival itself became a form of power. By the end of 2025, the balance of power had shifted, but not decisively. Israel gained tactical leverage without achieving dominance. Iran and its allies preserved counterweight capacity. The United States remained present, but less directive. Russia and China expanded influence indirectly. The Middle East entered an era where the balance favors endurance over victory. Power now belongs to those who can sustain a pressure, absorb cost, and operate within a permanent confrontation. In this system, war is no longer the breakdown of politics. It is the mechanism through which the balance of power is continuously recalibrated.
As winter begins, concerns grew once again, with hundreds of thousands of Palestinians still living in temporary shelters. International agencies and humanitarian organizations warn that disease and hunger could worsen if the ceasefire collapsed. Many Palestinians express fear that the calm might be temporary, a pause between rounds of violence, rather than a step towards peace in 2025. Gaza did not simply experience a war. It ended a year marked by loss, resilience, and suffering. The ceasefire offered a moment to breathe, but the territory's future remained uncertain, hanging between reconstruction and the risk of renewed conflict.